Hi, welcome back. My name's Kara, and this is a channel that I'm using to document a 1-year low-buy project because I'm trying to keep a super tight budget because I'm paying off student loans, um, like tons of people. So I use this channel where I share a weekly video. At the end of every month, I check in on my goal to use 75% of my net income towards paying my debt. And in the meantime, there's several other weeks in the month, and I like to share how I make my very simple life and this very tight budget work. This week, today, I'm starting to share my grocery budget because even if you're not on a budget, everybody's got to eat. And I really like the way I eat, and I manage to eat 100% local food. And so my grocery budget every month is $120. I don't even use it all every month, but that's how much I could use if I needed to. And I eat all local food, and it's delicious and wonderful. And I have a video that I took a couple days ago, the day that I had time to go grocery shopping. And so I will now share that footage, and you can see my grocery haul. And then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about it. So here we are in the kitchen, and I had just gone, before I started filming, I had just gone to Woods Meat Processing here in Sandpoint, Idaho. They're just north of town, and I bought all of the food I'm gonna need for at least a month, which is so convenient to do it all at once, to go and make one stop, and in that lovely box is everything that I need for a month. So what I do is at Woods, they have a special where if you buy at least 20 pounds of ground beef, the price drops a little bit by like 20 cents a pound. So I know, I mean, I'm going to eat meat every single day. So I know I'm going to eat at least that much. So it's easy to always buy 20 pounds of ground beef and get their deal. I bought 20 pounds of ground beef, and then they had a special for chuck steak, bone in, and their chuck steaks are wonderful. So I also bought 10 pounds of that. So 1 pound ground beef, I bought 20 of these, and then this is a chuck steak. Isn't that glorious? It's enormous. And this is more than a pound. So these are kind of, it's nice to have these available if I have a particularly hungry day. It's a great way to get enough to eat and still just open one package, and it's simple. There's a lot of fat on these, and like I said, it is bone in, and so what I like to do is I make the steak and then I eat, and I save the bones. I throw them in a Tupperware box down in the freezer, and once I've saved up a lot of bones, I can make stock out of it. So again, like nothing goes to waste. This is perfect. I've got at least 30 days of food, and I'm gonna go throw them downstairs into the freezer. Surprise! So I didn't prepare you for that, I guess, but I follow a carnivore diet. Some people call it a zero carb way of eating, and it's awesome. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I learned about this way of eating and how long I've been doing it. And today I just want to share that, and also that I love that I can do this locally here in northern Idaho. I can't believe I almost forgot to talk about this, but it's important to kind of fill out the picture of what I'm eating. So all of the meat that I bought right now, that was $113 and some change. So in my budget, there's $6 and change left. And what am I doing with that? Well, sometimes I might just throw it onto my debt, but most of the time I need it. And one of the things that I buy with that pretty much every month, and I will be doing that here probably tomorrow, is that I buy butter. One, butter's delicious, And two, butter is a really great source of fat, which is very satiating and it gives you a lot of energy. So that's one of the ways that I make sure that I stretch the energy content of my food. And I buy that butter at the store where I work, and I buy butter produced by local creameries. There's one called, she's got a strange name for her business. It's What You Keep. That's the name of her farm. So I like her butter, and I'll get a few of those. They come in little 8-ounce tubs. And then I use that butter when I cook, and sometimes I just make sure to throw an extra scoop on top of like the ground beef that I'm eating. And that helps me to ensure that I get enough energy out of all of my food. In addition, most of the time I've found that what I bought this week will probably actually stretch 5 weeks, and it might even stretch into a 6th week. And that's because at work I sometimes get a free meal, and sometimes the meat department just gives me a sample of what they're cooking and providing for their customers, and it ends up adding up to about a meal, and I just enjoy that for the day, and maybe I don't eat when I come home that night. So there's little ways that sometimes I get food besides what I actually purchased. And so when that happens and it stretches out so that what I've purchased goes 5 weeks, one time I made it 7 weeks with what I thought I would need for 1 month. So that helps, because then the next month's budget I can spend less on actually meat, and that's where I find money to buy coffee with my housemate. Now wait a second. Coffee's not local. You got me. Coffee is not local. In northern Idaho, there is no coffee plantation. It just doesn't happen. So yes, coffee is not a local product, but I do, with my housemate, we find it valuable to buy locally roasted coffee. So we support a couple of roasting houses. There's one in Coeur d'Alene that we like, and there's one here in Sandpoint that we really like. So we find it valuable to get local coffee. And so yeah, I pay my share, and I even wake up early and make the coffee for him. So yeah, those were just a couple more things that kind of fill out the full picture of what I actually eat and use and where the money comes from. Kara, how in the world did you decide to eat only meat and all of that? In 2016, I was at that time dating a guy who had a lot of food allergies and was really sensitive to a lot of different foods, and we were often trying to figure out what was bothering him. Anyway, a long story short is that by just Googling and trying to find out all things about food, I came across a blog of a woman named Dr. Georgia Eid. She's a psychiatrist, and she at that time had begun using a nutritional approach with her patients and was having a lot of good results, and her patients were experiencing a lot of relief. And while that isn't why I ended up looking at her blog, learning about that nutritional approach was really interesting. And she has great lectures online about what she's learned with her patients and how a lot of times it has been helpful to them to just change the way they eat. And they have a lot of relief from various, not all, but various mental health symptoms. So anyway, I found her blog, and she has wonderful pages of all different food groups and things that you may or may not have ever known. So from her blog, I was learning a lot about food that I'd never heard of before. And at that time in her bio, she mentioned that she ate an all-meat diet. And this was the summer of 2016. And I had just never heard of such a thing before. And it sounded awesome though, because I've always enjoyed meat. I love the taste and texture, and steak is delicious. And I grew up eating meat. My dad would hunt, and we had all kinds of animal foods in my house. So I liked the idea, but I didn't try it yet. Anyway, over the next few months and even years, I kept learning more from her and from other people who are nutrition experts, agriculture experts, um, just lots of, again, people on YouTube sharing their stories of how they eat and how their health is improving or not improving. Uh, so then it was 2 full years later, it was actually June of 2018, I decided to give it a try. And so as the month of June wore on and my vegetables and different plant foods in my house ran out, I just didn't buy any more. Within, I don't know, within a week, I was sleeping better. And by the end of 30 days, I felt really good. I had already been eating kind of a low carb diet. I was that girl that was always like, oh, I eat paleo. And then I would drink 4 beers. So it wasn't perfect, but it was kind of low carb. Um, and so I noticed that my energy was really steady. I wasn't having these big spikes of hunger. I wasn't getting hangry, even if at that time I was working at a restaurant. And if you had to serve 30 tables for the next few hours and you weren't going to get any minute to yourself, I found that I was able to just go through the whole shift and not even worry and have mental clarity the whole time. I felt great. So I decided to keep going and keep going and keep going, and I'm still doing it. I have only eaten meat and eggs and dairy for a year and a half, 18 months, a little more now. And I have no plan to change because I continue to feel the best I've ever felt in my life. The best I've ever felt in my life. I also know that eating such an unusual diet, it absolutely must raise questions because obviously I was learning about it for close to 2 years before I decided to try it. And if you're just hearing about this kind of thing for the first time, one, you probably think I'm insane, and two, you probably have a ton of questions. So, and it's important to talk about how food is produced and not just local, even though to me that's an essential piece of it. Um, but but we're always told that animal agriculture is harmful to the planet and that all those cow belches are ruining the ozone. And I'd like to share some of what I've learned that definitely made it so that I'm not worried about the impact of my diet. And I actually think that if people ate more meat, it could be really good for the planet. Now there's something that'll be new. I think it would be better for the planet if we all ate much more meat. And I would love the opportunity to explain that to you. So stick around and we'll have more of the how does this work and why would it be a good idea to eat this way in the coming weeks. So I will see you then.